What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel, and welcome back to that QRP Head-to-Head series. So, that guy's not straight. It's going to drive me nuts. So, today we're going to take a look at a radio that I've had on loan for quite a while from my buddy Dougbo, KD7 DUG. And that's one of his mcHF QRP radios. Now, he has multiples of these. I am not sure whether this is a clone or the real deal. I could ask him, but I'm going to be honest with you, I'm not so sure it makes much of a difference. I'm not sure if there's a heck of a lot of difference between the real deal and the Chinese clones. We'll talk about that in a little while, but I want to dive into this radio, talk about some of the different features. This radio actually has a lot of features. It's actually a pretty impressive little radio, and we'll put it up against the current reigning champion, the KX2, and we'll see how it fares. So when he offered to loan me this radio, obviously I took him up on it, but I wasn't really sure what to expect. It's kind of a weird looking radio, and it's kind of busy, but it's actually a pretty nice radio. I see why he likes these things so much. So let's talk about the specs like we normally do. So this particular radio, you can get a clone for $350 off of eBay. Now, getting a real one, good luck. They're hard to find, and they're kind of expensive. I couldn't find any currently for sale. All the ones I could find for sale currently were clones. It's 7.5 inches by 2 3/4 inches by 1 3/4 inches, or 2 3/4 inches up to the top of the rails. Weighs 21.6 ounces. There's 615 grams. 5 watts power output. Color waterfall. Internal speaker. This particular one has an internal tuner. Now, they don't all have that. That was actually installed after the fact. In fact, I got it directly from the guy who installed it for Dougbo. Instead of shipping it back to him, he sent it to me. This says 160 to 10. That's not right. It's actually 160 to 6. It actually goes to 6 meters. It does phone, it does CW, and it does digital. This radio is actually pretty neat. So let me go ahead and fire it up. We'll talk about what we've got going on here. I'm going to zoom in a little bit so you can see. All right. So we've got quite a bit going on this radio, right? So let me turn the tuner off here real quick. Oh, before I do that, one minor niggle I have with this radio. It uses an SMA antenna port. All right, so you're going to need... Oop, it turned off. Turn back on. I bumped the power and shut it off. So you're going to need an adapter. I've got it plugged into a talent cell, and I bumped that. There's talent cells have buttons on the outside to turn them off, and I bumped it and shut it off while I was screwing that on. You're going to need an adapter for this. So you can see I just screwed that BNC on, and when I put my dummy load on here, the dummy load has a BNC to SO239 PL259 adapter also. So you need a bunch of adapters for this radio if you're going to, depending on what coax or antenna you're going to run. So that's something to consider. I apologize if I keep coughing. I'm just getting over the sickness that will not be named. Everybody could probably figure out what that is. But we've got a lot going on the front of this radio here, so let's talk about this. We've got a power button. We've got our band up and down button. And so like I said, this goes... So there's 160, 80, 60, 40, 30, 20, 17, 15, 12, 10, and 6. So this will do all of those bands. All right. Shut that tuner off again. So let's talk about what else we got going on here. We've got an actual AF gain and RF gain knobs. All right, that's a nice thing to have, especially that RF gain if you're in a really noisy area and you want to be able to dial that gain back so you're not listening to all that just garbage. Right, if I crank that up, right, we don't need that all the time, so we can dial that back. It does have RIT, and then we've got our mode button, our digital signal processing button. This has DSP. It's got all sorts of different filtering. It's got multiple filter widths. It's got different filter widths for CW and single sideband and all those things. It's got really good filtering. The PA, our bandwidth, our menu button, we'll go into that in a little bit. A snap button, a split button, so you can run split on this. Here's your VFOB, There's the tuner button. So this one does have an installed internal tuner. And then we've got our VFO and then our step. On the sides of the radios, obviously, we have our ports. On the right-hand side, we've got our headphone jack, our mic jack, our line in and our line out, an accessory jack, our key jack, and our power jack. And on the other side, we've got a USB, actually 2 USBs. One looks like for probably doing firmware and things like that, and one for data, and the antenna port. All right, this does have an internal speaker. You can hear it. It's not the most amazing speaker, but it gets the job done. So at the top here, what you can see, we've got our temperature. So it actually shows you the temperature. All right, it shows you like your AGC and your RIT, your words per minute, and all that stuff here. This is our S meter and our SWR and power meter here. Obviously, our pan adapter and our waterfall are right here. So audio on this thing is okay. It's not amazing, but it's not bad. It's a lot of these small QRP radios, the speakers are lacking. This one's actually not horrible. And it does have a CW decoder if you use those. I'm not a personal fan, but and it's passable. I mean, it pulled all that out. CQ, 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 DE, K2, EJ, TK. I mean, it gets the job done. So if you use CW, decoders, you know, that is available on this. Like I said, for me, a CW decoder is kind of useless. Down here, it shows us our filter widths. It shows us we're at CW. We've got 12.59 volts. All right. So it shows you what band you're on here. Obviously, this is our other VFO. So we've got a lot of information on this little screen. It's actually pretty good. You can see we're in receive right now, and there's a transmit button as well. So when I transmit, all right, actually, it's not lighting up. Oh, I wonder if I probably got the power turned down. Anyway, this radio, there's a lot going on the front of it. It can be a little busy. And when you go into the menu, the menus are insane. All right, so there's the standard menu, the configuration menu, display menu, CW settings, filter selections, PA configuration, touchscreen via menu. Yes, it has a touchscreen. I don't even remember how to scroll down through all of these different menus. Okay, here you go. You can scroll down through. So that opens and closes that menu. Okay, so the RF gain knob scrolls through the different menus. And then the RIT knob opens it, so you can scroll down in there. We can change it iambic A, iambic B. There's our key speed. All right, all that kind of stuff. We can change our side tone frequency, which I think is super important personally. We can change our transmit delay. We can change lower, upper. You can enable and disable the CW decoder. There, you can do all sorts of stuff in here. And every one of these menu items has a menu in there like that. So if we go into, let's go into, for instance, let's go into display settings. Right, we got all sorts of stuff. We can change our step size, our filter bandwidth, display, color, spectrum size, right? You can change all those things. We can change your frequency colors, your scope light, there's all sorts of stuff in here you can change. You can customize that screen. I mean, the menus in this thing are deep. This radio really does a lot. I mean, a lot. Like, it's kind of insane. The menus in this thing go very, very deep. However, once you figure out how to use it, it's really not that bad to use. There's system info, debug, the Hall of Fame. I'm not sure what that is, but there's all sorts of stuff in here. So like if we go to standard menu, right, we can change our lower sideband, upper sideband, auto select. Our digital mode stuff we can turn on and off. Our CW mode we can turn off and on. Turn AM on and off. There's all sorts of stuff in here. I mean, this menu goes on for, you can see, just forever. There's all sorts of stuff in here. So I'm not going to go through all of these different menus because that would take an hour just to go through these menus. And to be perfectly honest with you, most of the stuff is stuff that once you've got it set, you're never going to play with. But there is a lot to this radio. All right. I mean, a lot. So let me back us back out here. And let me power this radio off real quick. Let me hook the coax up to it. So I'm going to plug that from my FTDX10. Bring that over and hook that up to, let me get that off of there and take that off of the dummy load. Throw this on here so you can see what it sounds like in receive. Now, it's been a while since I've used the tuner in. Whoa, that's loud. It's been a while now. You can see the spectrum scope and the waterfall are alive now. Let's see if we can listen to somebody here. Every time I tune around, people disappear. There's somebody right there. There's some big strong signals down here. That's KG4BIG. Let me tune off of him a little bit here. All right, so we'll tune this thing up. So it's been a while. So let's see. This is the sheet that came with the tuner. So tuning mode. Press and hold the E3 encoder button. The LED 2 will turn green for 2 seconds. After that, blah, 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 blah. After that, hit the tune button. All right, so we press and hold this. It starts blinking. Tune it up. See if we can work him. Let's count about a 5.7. Got him. All right, so there you go. So we just worked Ken, KG4BIG in Kentucky. So the radio, actually, it's remarkably nice to use. The sound, like I said, the sound isn't amazing out of it. It's not horrible, but it's not great. All right. So, you know, if you're going to use this for a long time and you want to make sure your ears aren't getting tired, you might want to run an external speaker. But if you're just doing like a short activation or something with it, the internals, in fact, I've done, I don't know, 4 or 5 activations with this radio, and I did all of them with the internal speaker. I didn't use an external speaker on any of them. But if you're somebody who's real picky about sound, or you're going to be using it for a long time, I'd use an external speaker. It's just a little nicer on the ears. But yeah, I mean, you can, and if you look, we've got a really strong signal right next to us. I can hear him, but it's not horrible. And I've got the filter at 500 hertz. I could narrow it up even more. Let's see. I'm not even going to bother. And this right here shows us whether we are zero beating or not. right about in there someplace. He's about, yeah, something about like that. Yeah, so this radio actually has a lot going on. Let me turn the volume down so we're not listening to this. So again, you know, we got a lot going on this screen, right? Here's our AF gain. Like I said, you can see that moving up and down when I turn the volume up and down, right? You can see our signal strength. I've currently got a pretty high noise floor here right now. I got about an S4, which for here, maybe closer to an S5. Now, if I hop on one of the other radios over here, so I've got, next to me, I've got my FTDX10, and I've also got a 705, and I have the KX2. I guarantee if I hop on any of those, the noise floor will not be as high as it is on this radio. Those radios all have better receivers. This one's not bad. Those ones are better. They're less noisy. The filtering's a little better. Well, the filtering's a lot better depending on the radio. You know, the Yaesu has amazing filtering. The KX2 has pretty good filtering. The 705 has pretty good filtering. They're all better than this. But for what this radio is, for the size that it is, I mean, so let me bring the KX2 in for comparison. It is longer than the KX2, but only marginally. And it's about the same width and the same height. So it's slightly bigger than a KX2. All right. But this has the pan adapter and the waterfall and everything that this guy doesn't, right? So I think if it wasn't for that big screen, now this has a monster screen in it too, but I think if it wasn't for that big color screen, this radio could be smaller. But I kind of like to have that information on the screen. It's not super important if I'm doing an activation or something, but if I'm sitting here hunting like I was just doing now, it's nice to have the information on the screen so I can see the signals on the screen and know where to tune. Now, with that being said, you should start with your ears, right? Sometimes I'll just close my eyes and spin the dial and listen, because you'll pull stuff out that you can't see on the waterfall, but you can hear it with your ears. So like I said, this radio, this is a great field radio. I wouldn't just want this to be my only radio, but it's a good field radio. It really is. I see why Dougbo likes these so much. He's got a couple of them, like I said, and I know a couple other guys that have them. This is a kind of an oddball radio, but like I said, it's got kind of a cult following, and I can see why. So let me go ahead and turn the power off here. Disconnect everything here, and let's have a discussion about this radio. Oh, that BNC's unscrewing. That's fine. Just tried to undo the, or not the BNC, the SMA. I tried to undo the BNC, but the whole thing unscrewed. That's all right. So let's unplug everything here. And let's talk about the pros and cons in this radio, and then let's compare it to that KX2. Pros. Size is great. It's got this big kickstand. All right, when you fold that kickstand down, so just for reference, let me bring the KX2 over. Let me fold the kickstand down on that also so you can see, right, to give you an idea of size. All right, so you can see it's about the same in every dimension except for the length. All right, the height, the width, right, they're very, very similar. Okay, it does come with these rails, so it's got the side rails on it. It's got this little flip-down kickstand. Like I said, on this side are where all your major ports are. I guess this side you've got your USBs and your antenna port. The speaker's in the back, and the kickstand is drilled. So if you've got the kickstand down, the speaker isn't blocked, which is a good idea. Size is good. Form factor's pretty good. Everything's easy to get to. It's got this thing has tons of features. I mean, it's got an internal tuner. It's all the HF bands plus 6 meters. It's got an internal speaker. It's got adjustable RF and AF gains. It's got RIT. It's got good filtering, or decent filtering anyway. It's got DSP. It's got digital noise reduction. It's got all sorts of stuff. This radio really has a ton of features. So really the only cons, there's only a few. One is getting a real one is hard, right? You can go on eBay right now and buy a clone, brand new, and have it, I don't know, whenever it gets here from China. But finding a real one is tricky. Now, like I said, I don't know if this is a real one or if this is a clone. I honestly don't have an answer to that one. But like I said, I'm not sure it matters that much, and getting the real ones can be tough anyway. But aside from the speaker's a little aside from that, the only thing that really holds this radio back is, well, primarily the lack of an internal battery. Now, I know that's not a big deal, and I don't have that many radios that have internal batteries in them, but when we're comparing it to the radios we're comparing it to, things like the KX2 or the 705, things like that, they have internal batteries, right? Now, if I compare this to, say, a G90, I would say this is probably a better radio than a G90 is. And in fact, it is a better radio than a G90 is, except for the power output. And again, remember, this one just had the tuner installed. These don't all come with a tuner. In fact, I'm not sure if any of them came with a tuner, so that's something to consider as well. As if you buy one of these and you want to have the tuner installed, I know you can buy the tuners, but I don't know where from. If you hop on the El Goog, it'll tell you where you can buy them. I'm not sure where he got this one from, but like I said, this one came straight from the guy who installed it to me. So, but the tuner works pretty well. Works pretty quick. It seems to tune up most things pretty reasonably. I haven't had any issues tuning antennas up. So it is a little, the case is a little chintzy. I mean, the material, the metal is a little, but again, so is the KX2. The metal's a little cheap. The metal on this is very similar to the metal on the G90. A lot of the build quality on this reminds me of the G90. So let's bring the KX2 back in, and let's see if we can hash out who's going to win this and why. I think it's probably, oh, that light's bright. I think it's probably obvious which one of these two radios is going to win, but I'm going to be honest with you, it's closer than it should be. So when it comes to the receiver quality, the KX2 is definitely better. When it comes to transmit, they're both pin dialed, so that's kind of a wash. They both have internal tuners. They both have internal speakers. You know, they both have adjustable. This one has adjustable. They have adjustable AF and RF gains. They'll both do digital, but it's going to be clunky. You know, it's not like a 705 or the FX4CR or something, or something like that where it's plug and play. This guy's got a waterfall and this one doesn't. This has got that great big, very easy to read LCD display. But what I just did is a big deal for me. That internal battery, if it's going to be a field radio and I don't have to take batteries with me, that is a huge plus, right? The receiver in this thing is miles ahead of the receiver in this thing. It just is. The receiver in this thing's okay. The receiver in this is excellent. It's not as good as the KX3 or any of the Yaesu stuff, but as far as field radios are concerned, you know, this thing's pretty good. And again, the tuner in this thing is excellent. The tuner in this is wider than the tuner in this is, so this will tune up stuff this won't. It does have the internal battery. All in all, you know, if I had to only pick one of these radios, it would definitely be the KX2, just because it is such a complete package. The receiver's so good. The filtering is so much better. Filtering in this is okay. The filtering in this is vastly better. Again, it's not KX3 quality, but it's pretty darn good. You can't go wrong with either one of these. This guy is substantially cheaper than this, right? I mean, this is a shack in a box with everything is $1,600. You can go on eBay right now and buy one of these for $350. I don't know what the tuners are going for, but it's going to be a whole lot less than this radio. You could probably buy, I don't know, multiples of this plus the tuner for what this guy cost. As far as availability is concerned, these are getting better. So Elecraft, it was like, I don't know, 16, 20 weeks to get one of these things or longer. It looks like Elecraft's getting caught up on some of their backlog, and their orders are fulfilling faster. I'm not sure what the current wait time is in a KX2, but it's not what it used to be. These guys, obviously, you got to wait. Either find one used, or if you buy one of the new clones, obviously probably it's going to come from China. That's probably going to take a couple of weeks. But yeah, all in all, like I said, this radio is a fantastic radio. I see why people really like these. Like I said, these kind of have a cult following. It's really kind of a cool little radio. At the end of the day, I don't think it quite compares to the KX2, but it probably shouldn't, right? I mean, these were kits. When you could buy these new, the real deal, they came as kits. KX2, you could, as far as I know, you could always buy as a fully assembled radio. I mean, this is from the very first run. This is serial number, know, 336, 339, something like that. This is from like the first batch of these radios. And it's still going strong. So, yeah, like I said, if I could only choose one, it's going to be the KX2. It's a better radio in general, but I wouldn't turn my nose up at one of these. If your budget is in this range, it's going to be hard to find a radio that does all of the things that this radio does for the kind of money that one of these costs. Like I said, the real ones are a lot more expensive. I couldn't find any currently for sale, but I've seen them in like the $600+ range. But the clones, which work exactly the same way, they're built exactly the same way. Like I said, $350. And like I said, I don't know what the tuners are going for currently, but probably a couple $100. So, Doug Bull, I really appreciate you letting me spend some time, a lot of time with this radio. I apologize I had it so long. Like I said, things have just been crazy, and I haven't had a chance to do a lot of these. So, yeah, more QRP head-to-head videos to come. But like I said, at the end of the day, between these two radios, as cool as this radio is, the KX2 is still my current champion as far as full-featured, all-mode field radios are concerned. Now, I do have, like I said, I have several other radios. I have another full-featured, all-mode radio that I need to compare to this. And I have 2 more CW radios that I've got to put up against the KX1. I do have the new Yaesu radio. I put a pre-order in for one of those. So as soon as those are available, I'll be ordering one of those, and that'll go up against this radio. That's going to be interesting. I don't know how that's going to fare. The 705 was pretty favorable to this, although this beat that. We'll see how that new Yaesu radio does when I finally get it. But at any rate, guys, I really appreciate you watching. Like I said, for right now, the KX2 still reigns supreme as far as the all-mode field transceivers are concerned for me. Again, might be different for you. I know, like, if you asked Aaron Bowman, he would tell you the 705 all day and twice on Sunday. Again, personal preference. I love my 705 is on this desk all the time. Yes, that's a COVID test back there. Like I said, I've been sick. Like I said, this 705 is on my desk all the time. I use this in the shack as my UHF VHF radio, and I use it out in the field. So this thing gets used for everything. You know, it sits right next to the FDDX10. So I love that radio too. But I think this is just a little bit better field radio for this kind of stuff that I do. So at any rate, everybody, that is the KX2 versus the mcHF. I really appreciate you watching. Like I said, keep your eyes peeled on the channel for more QRP head-to-head stuff. I also have a couple of keys I've got to take a look at. In fact, I got one today, but I had an issue with it I've got to take care of. So I've got 3 different keys we got to take a look at. And like I said, I've got about, including this radio, I've got 3 others plus this one. So we've got 4 radios and 3 keys we'll be taking a look at here in short order. So at any rate, everybody, thank you again so much for watching. I really do appreciate it. And as always, until next time, 7-3.